space. So
Okay.
I feel like we could pick one or the other, or as usually, we usually blend two
Yeah.
together.
Now, I actually was not very, I mean, I'm never prepared for it. But this time I was really unprepared for it. I was wanting to work over the holidays and I ended up not working. So,
Yeah, I didn't cover a lot of ground either. I don't think anybody did. Everybody that I had talked to prior to the holiday was just winding down for like the end of Tuesday for each week. It was like, that's it. I'm just going to send it. End of Tuesday, we're done, not doing anything. And a lot of people did that. I met with a couple people that were diehard about it, but
yeah.
otherwise, yeah, I didn't schedule much or do much either.
I,
I don't know, do you run into a lot of people with the title fractional?
I do, especially
Yeah.
fractional CMOs. That's like the biggest one, but I know there's a lot of fractional CFOs too.
There's fractional CMOs, fractional CFOs. Yeah, we could rant about that for a while because I feel like that space has gotten so diluted to the point where everybody's using these terms. And so more so than ever, nobody knows what anybody does. And
Yeah.
that's a big problem when it comes to your messaging, your identity. I'm sure it plays a huge factor into causing issues in what you do. I know that it's really causing muddy water in what I do because people are wanting to throw titles around like crazy, and everybody's now overlapping or saying they're in the same field, and they're not doing the same things. So
Yeah.
it's a rant for me for sure. But
No, for me, I think it's just more a lot of people, try to throw fractional CMOs my way. And I just don't know if they're the right people for me. That's the thing. Like I've met so many like fractional CMOs through SCN. And the thing is, a lot of people who have fractional CMOs, they already have usually someone who's doing their social media. Like someone is already either doing their social media or they're so big that they don't want to hire either a small agency or like a freelancer. Like they want them in-house.
yeah.
Or a big agency that will basically do everything, which kind of defeats the purpose of a fractional CMO.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, at least in my opinion, I could be wrong, but I've just never worked with a fractional CMO. Usually the businesses I work with, they're so small that they don't have a fractional CMO. And so by the time you get to the level stage of fractional CMOs, they're just making way more than what other people normally hire us for. But there are a lot.
There's a lot, and I find with the whole rotating roles and titles is that everybody can designate themselves a fractional whatever. Like I meet a lot of fractional CROs, a lot of fractional CMOs, a lot of fractional CFOs. Those seem to be the three main, like always start with the word fractional and go from there. But especially with like CROs, they all have a different approach as to what CRO means. And it can be a slightly moving target, but you can't have that many different variations of the title. And I think what people are missing with whatever they're trying to designate in the C-suite is that it's a C-suite position.
Yeah.
So you get really a lot of people trying to do mid-level implementation, but calling themselves a C executive on whatever title. And it's just causing so much chaos. I was just working with a company that was like, yeah, we just hired a fractional CRO. And I'm like, great. What's the financial strategy? Let's figure out what the goals are, because I'm helping them align things internally in the positioning and the messaging and figuring out what they're trying to do. We don't have those goals. The CRO is like, well, I don't know. You guys tell me what you want to do. It's like, that's your job. You need to create the strategy and the outline and the plan and the KPIs and the benchmarks of what we're all trying to hit. I need to work in conjunction with you, not lead you. And I've even been called a fractional CMO.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fractional CMO. I don't even claim to be in marketing. I'm the thing that will help enhance the ecosystem. If anything, I've been called a CXO, which I can handle that because I do work on the experiential level as far as making sure that the branding is figured out, the marketing is figured out, the sales are figured out, and then operations. But usually I exist kind of in the identity piece, which is the branding, not creating the brand, enhancing the brand, and then the operations piece. But it's getting crazy out there. Everybody's a fractional something. And I get it because we're all trying to freelance, and well, we're not freelancers either, because that was the thing before fractionals. But I feel like that's actually probably what it is all of the freelancers have just rebranded and are now calling themselves fractional whatevers. Freelancers are implementers.
Right.
It's done for you service usually with a freelancer. C-suite is not necessarily implementation. It's direction. It's top-down leadership that is meant to bring bigger picture and holistic strategy to what they're doing, and then help coordinate with those who are implementing. That's my take on it. And that's what I've been seeing a lot lately. It's just people, I'm a fractional this, I'm a fractional that. Oh yeah, we're working in the same space. And then I hear what they do and I go, we're not working in the same space. That's not what I do.
Yeah, and I think some of them just doesn't know what to call themselves. Also, because I've met some people who are like, I don't know what to say what my business is.
Yeah.
I think the world has created just so many opportunities that you can now really get hired for really anything and everything.
Yeah.
That I think like people are like, okay, like what do I call myself for what it is that I do? And I think it's just so easy to just say, I mean, I think I'm gonna argue that like beforehand it wouldn't be freelance, it would be consulting.
Mhm.
That's like consulting went into fractional, like that fractional type space.
Yeah.
And I think like before, I mean, I've heard them before as well. And the way that I've always understood fractionals is you are so good at what you do. You've done this for so many other people that instead of just doing it for one specific company, you end up taking a fraction of what it is that you do and you do it for this company, this company, this company, and this company.
Yeah.
And I know that that's how that term started. But I think nowadays, and actually I wanted to compare it to something, I don't want to go on a travel tangent, but I wanted to compare it to like the coaches
Mhm.
in the traveling space, which is like, don't ever get me started on that because I swear, like everybody in like the traveling world is a coach, like a life coach or business coach or just any coach. And I'm just like, okay. But I think it just comes from a lack of really being able to understand what it is that you fully do. So you don't know how to like present yourself, at least for a good chunk of them. I'm not saying for every single person. I think there are fractional people out there, but I think there are some people who started calling themselves that because how else can you market yourself?
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. I think that's spot on because we've got, yeah, there's everybody in the coaching space too that, and I'm not knocking on coaches. People call me a coach too. They're like, oh, you're a coach. I'm like, okay. I don't really care personally. I'm like, if it makes sense to you, as long as the engagement's clear, I don't care. Call me whatever you want. But the coaching space, yeah, I think that also consulting absolutely transitioned into fractional. The coaching space transitioned into fractional. And now you've got everybody just trying to grab a title that makes sense to them, which I actually met with fractional CFO a couple of weeks ago, just before the holiday break. And he knew what he was doing. And he kind of actually went off on this too. In the same fashion, he's like, the CFO is also like leading. You're the chief financial officer for a company, whether you're fractional or not. So we need to be talking about the metrics, the outlines, again, the KPIs, what we're trying to hit, what the goals are, what's falling short, because you're the pulse financially for the entire company. And he was talking about how there's a lot of people claiming the same thing. I'm a CFO. It's like, but they're not really a CFO. They're kind of like a mid-level account manager that is just marketing themselves as a CFO and then asking for directions from everybody else. And that's, I think, my biggest gripe is I find a lot of people, whether they're in a consulting space, coaching space, fractional C-suite space, I think I hold the ones that claim to have a fractional title to the highest standard. It's like you're claiming to have this title, but then you're lost always, and everybody else is looking to you for directions and nobody's executing because they're waiting for some top-down leadership that isn't coming. And I think that's one of the biggest detriments to what I'm seeing in the space right now in general.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm definitely not. I would say I'm probably not saying what is actually in my mind to say. I know it's a candid conversation.
I think we're both holding back to some
Yeah,
degree.
because I mean, we also know a lot of fractional people, so it's like it's a very hard space to just kind of like, you know, because even you're like, yeah, I'm not bashing on coaches, but the people who travel for me to Bali, who says they're coach, yeah, like for me, it's like Like for me, I just have like almost like really, are you sure? Like, like what qualifies you to do it, right? Um, so yeah, like I don't know if and you know, we've said a lot of things here as well where it's like well, we just won't release it kind of thing. But I think for me, trying to see how candid I want to be. But I think for me, it's just more a lot of people want to feel better or look better
Mhm.
or want people to think better of them than where they're really at. And I take all of that with a grain of salt. Like I said, I don't know how candid I really want to be.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that's where all of these fractional spaces are coming up because you know even let's just say the word coach, right?
Mhm.
Or even the fractional space, all of that is looking at it from I've done everything and I'm teaching you how to do it. I'm leading you how to do it. I'm here, you know, for you. I'm here to teach you. I'm here to implement that, whatever it is that I've learned. And so I think there's just so many people who really want to be seen as the expert, really want to be seen as, you know, it's like what qualifies you to be a life coach, right? Rather than like you just signed up for a course and you decided to call yourself that.
Yeah.
Or even in the fractional like, space, it's like, did you get a certificate for that?
Mhm.
Or how long have you worked for another company? Most fractional CFOs or most fractional CMOs, at least take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, the real ones, they've had the experience. They've worked for big companies and they were the CMO and the CFO, and they just don't want to take it from one specific company.
Yeah.
But I think some people have been like, oh, like, you know, it's like I can do these things, these things without really having that experience, and then suddenly just calling themselves that because nothing really prevents you from calling yourself anything. We've made up so many titles
Yeah.
in this day and age. You could literally like be anything and everything that you could possibly want to be. So I think there's that aspect of it as well. So
I think part of the challenge is not that I have beef with everybody else doing it, because you know you got to start somewhere. You got to figure yourself out, and everybody's vying for identity and marketability and that strategic advantage, right? And I'm fine with that. I really am. I think what is making it complicated is when somebody will talk about the strategy side of things, but they don't actually do anything strategy related. So you put yourself in a strategy position, but you're not doing anything strategic. That's, I think, the biggest differentiator between somebody who is implementing and mid-level integration or somebody who is truly in the C-suite. There has to be a large amount of strategy. And so you were talking about the experience, right? It's the experience you bring to what you're doing to be able to assess what the situation is and then chart a path forward. You do that with the marketing side of things and social media management. I do that in my realm and on my side of things because I have to break it down and say, okay, what's working, what's not working, what are we trying to accomplish? And then based on, you know, the first two questions, you've heard me say this before, what are we trying to do and why are we trying to do it? If we can get those two questions answered, then we can figure out what the goal actually is and set that goal and then create a strategy to start executing on that goal. And that gets, again, that's what I mean by top-down strategy and then implementation, right? Top-down leadership. But what happens is you get a lot of, and I've seen this in the marketing space, you get a lot of people that are like, I'm a fractional CMO. And I'm like, you, okay. And so then it's like, well, what would you do in this space to work with sales, increase sales? You know, we're focusing on revenues because that's down. So here's what we've implemented. These are the identity pieces, so on and so forth, right? You've got the before and the after to the marketing. It's like, what would you do with that? I would just increase your ad budget. It's like, that's not strategy. That's just a fix all. Let's just throw more money at it. It'd be like an operations, like a COO saying, well, we just need to hire more people. Operations are breaking down. Let's just hire more people. It's like, that's not the answer because we don't know what's causing the breakdown. We don't know what we're even trying to fix. So throwing more bodies at the problem isn't going to help your operations. Just like, let's just throw a higher budget at it. Unless there's actually data to validate the decision to increase ad spend or whatever it is in the marketing space that, but usually it's just a broad stroke. Okay, well, you need to increase your ad budget. We need to run more ads, or we're going to run you through this program or that program. It's like, most often the breakdown is we're not communicating what we're actually trying to do to the right audience. And so we're not getting qualified leads or the reception back we need. And so then sales are breaking down. And usually sales break down for two reasons. One, they don't know what they're selling and how to do it. Or two, if they do know what they're selling and exactly how to do it, marketing is breaking down. And so the handoff from marketing to sales isn't effective because they're not actually getting the resources they need to complete the sale. So there's so many different pieces that go into analyzing what I call the 4 pillars of business. You know, your brand, your marketing, your sales, and your operations. They kind of go in that order and then they repeat, because as you've heard me say over and over again, operations has to support what your brand is, what your brand says that you solve, like what you say you do, who you are, and the problem you solve, and who you solve it for, right? That's your brand. What you can see, smell, touch, and taste. It's what you promise is going to happen when you have an interaction with your company. You promise how it's going to feel, how it's going to look. And then marketing communicates that. Marketing is like, this is who we are. We need to create awareness. Let's get the word out. It's transactional in that sense that you're just trying to connect with the would-be user. Not just, I don't mean that because it's so multifaceted when it comes to marketing. People are like, oh, we just run ads. It's like, that's a tool you can use for marketing, but that's not marketing. And then once you create that awareness and that understanding of this is who we are, this is what we claim to offer, you've created awareness for the potential end user. And then the end user goes, okay, well, what's my next steps? I want to learn more about this. I want to potentially try this out. That's sales. That's no longer marketing. That transitions to sales. And there's a whole gambit of things that need to fire off in sales. But sales is the transactional piece, right? And then the transformative piece is your operations, because sales says, okay, we've got the engagement, we've got the contract signed, hand off. Now it's time for the company to actually put up or shut up. Operations, everybody's like, oh, you just deliver the product or you just deliver the service. No, you have to specifically go back to who we said we were in our brand promise, what it was going to feel like, what problems we solve, and how we deliver that. That was your brand promise. Now your operations has to fulfill your brand promise. Like it covers that whole gap over the middle two, which is sales and marketing. And it has to deliver on your brand promise. And if you fail to execute that, then we go back to the drawing board. Did we screw up and miscommunicate who we are? Did we overpromise, underdeliver? Did we promise the wrong thing? Is it a branding and communication issue? Or is it truly an operations issue where we are who we said we were? Brand, marketing, and sales all fired off perfectly, but we can't actually execute on what we said we could do. We don't have the capacity. Then you break it down and say, okay, we're missing positions. There's gaps in our process. There's SOPs that didn't get created. There's 3 positions that we need to fill because it turns out we aren't set to fulfill the promise that we said we would. Then you start trying to hire for those positions. But it would be like, again, COO saying, oh, well, our operations broke down, so let's just hire 5 more people without actually knowing what the heck we're hiring them for or what we're doing. So that's kind of my standard for, can you take this analysis of what the company ecosystem is as a whole, what the other pillars need in order to execute, and then do they have the resources to do that? And if they don't, then you come up with a strategy to fix that, create that, or whatever you're trying to accomplish. But most people, it's like, well, we'll just hire somebody. It's like, I actually have a client. He said, I'm slammed. I'm having trouble delivering on deadlines. I have to hire somebody right now. And I said, don't you freaking dare hire anybody right now, because if you do, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. I said, it will be like throwing a toddler into the middle of your business with the lid off their sippy cup and then telling them not to spill, and then having to chase them around the room to make sure that they don't spill their juice all over the dining room. I was like, you cannot put a new hire in the middle of chaos when you're at peak volume and then expect your attention not to be completely split and expect that person to perform well. They have no chance at accomplishing the goal. It has to be implemented strategically. So I said, once we get leveled off, once we get through this push, I said, what we have to do is restructure your operations in regards to how everything currently is getting executed in order to handle it. Then once we level off, we can talk about bringing in a new hire and a trainee. But everybody's so reactive. And so it's always just, oh, we'll hire. You need more labor. It's like, but do they have the budget for labor? I don't know. And the fractional CFO goes, well, we just need to increase revenues, and then we'll have more budget for labor. It's like, what? Well, how are we going to increase the revenues? And they go, I don't know. Ask the fractional CRO. The fractional CRO goes, we need to offer a new product. And then again, the fractional COO says, well, I don't have the people to offer a new product. And then you get this gridlock of, it's like, what are we even trying to do? I don't know. We're trying to reach everybody. And then there's no fractional brand executive. So that always gets tossed right out the window. Like, well, what's our brand? Well, we have a logo, so we're good to go. So it can't be the brand problem because we already have a logo and a website. So we're solid on branding. It's like, oh, nope. So the whole thing just falls apart because we've got all of these fractionals that aren't actually strategic C-suite minded people that are running around with the lids off their sippy cups, spilling juice everywhere, going, it's not my fault.
No, you made so many good points. I was just like, oh my gosh. I was like, I want to say a lot of things and I had lost all of them.
Sorry, I kind of went on a really long-winded rant there.
No, I loved it.
Lecture.
No, I loved it. That's why I was like, oh my gosh, like, I was taking so many mental notes, but I was like, I knew that it was recording and I didn't want to. I used to do this thing where I would do on a podcast where I would like actually like take notes, and it's like that is like the worst thing ever. I'd rather just lose my point rather than like take notes. But no, the first thing I wanted to say was we definitely need to get Steven on one of these like conversations. Because as you were talking, I was just like, especially with the sippy cup and everything that you were saying, I was like, Steven's like one of the perfect like people to bring on here for one of these conversations. That's one.
Oh,
yeah. And then the second thing I wanted to say was there was many things, so I'm not going in order, but when you said and the reason that I wanted to do this with you is because I do learn so much as well. Like even honestly at SEN, whenever someone talks and I'm just like, oh, like I think like sometimes there's just so many like light bulb moments and you just gotta kind of have to grab it. But you said something where you said it's branding, marketing, sales, and operation. And I can definitely see how like as you grow bigger, like what new problems there would be, because now there's like as of right now I'm basically all of that. So as a small company you are branding, marketing, sales, and operation. And as you get bigger, right, like right now, like I'm trying to give out that operation piece, and obviously the branding we kind of sorted a little bit out a lot better than what it was the first 2 years. But it's like, okay, like the branding piece, it took forever to get there because we couldn't get our messaging down. I guess there's the logos on the websites, right? But we really couldn't get like down like who we were, like who we wanted to serve, who we wanted to like serve, but also like who we really wanted to target also, because we could really work for anybody. And so that was like such a huge piece of our branding effort, which is like really understanding like who that is. And then the operational piece, whenever I like started giving that out as well, there was like just so much chaos. And when you talked about this guy of just like, oh, like we're not hitting deadlines and there's so much chaos. I mean, I definitely did that a lot too, like in the beginning, right? Where it was just like, okay, like I don't know what I'm doing. Like, let me hire somebody. And the goal is to hire somebody better than you, but without the process or the systems of what it is that you do and having them understand it, especially interculturally, like with hiring in other countries, there's definitely like a huge disconnect. And without that piece, everything just slams to the floor anyway. And then you end up hiring them, you end up hiring somebody else, firing them, and then you're like, okay, like what's the issue? These are the things that you learn on your own when no one's telling you what to do.
Trial and error, absolutely.
Yeah. These are everything that I literally did, because I was just like, okay, that didn't work. Okay, like what am I doing wrong? What are they doing wrong? No, what am I doing wrong? But yeah, that it was why. And I did hire and I think I just hired the wrong thing. So maybe that's something that we can talk about here as well, is like, what is the proper like hiring system, right? Because there is like, I hired a sales coach. Actually, that was like mostly what I hired were sales. But the problem wasn't sales. Like I thought it was, but it wasn't. And so I think we can have a whole like another conversation about that. But I think what I just realized is when you were talking, I will say though, like when we hired this last strategic hire, we were still missing deadlines. I think it really just depends. Like you just really have to be honest with yourself of like, why are you missing deadlines? And it was mostly because I really just didn't want to do the work anymore. So there is also that piece of just like, I was just so tired of being the person that like, I looked at it like from the future. And I said, okay, if I'm still doing the operations and I'm doing the marketing and I'm doing the sales, and we did fix our branding, but if I'm still doing all of these three things, and my major focus was marketing and sales, and I'm still doing the operational work, I knew I almost had to take a risk because otherwise, if I kept, because I wanted to do everything, I said I'm going to push myself so that I'm just working all day, every day, no hours left to my day, basically.
Mhm.
And then say, okay, like I'm going to do marketing, I'm going to do sales, and I'm going to do operations until I hit that level where I've basically burnt out, and then I'm going to hire somebody. But the problem was when I hyper focused on our marketing and sales, I was burning out already. Plus, we've been doing the same things for the same clients for like years now.
Gotcha.
So it's like you're just producing the same thing. So I was like, okay, I know it's repeatable, but we're still missing deadlines. Not deadlines to get it out, but just internal deadlines. Like I wanted to be like super far ahead rather than like everything's just being slammed towards the end. And as long as we get it out by that specific client deadline, we would get it out. So I said, okay, like I need a strategic hire. And actually hiring that full-time hire, even though like we were still in chaos, was like one of the best things I've done, because the thing is, we've had a lot of our processes and systems written down as well. So that was a huge part of what I was working on before we hired her. So it's not like it was really that chaotic, but it was still chaos. When I hired her, literally in the interview said, I hope you like a little bit of chaos, because if you don't, just tell me now, because I will not hire you.
You will not survive. Yeah.
Yeah. But once we hired her, that was when we actually fixed a lot of the things that we were struggling with because of the reasoning that I had. Like it wasn't just, it was chaos and there was no processes and systems. And my team kind of already knew how to work around, like my team also trained her as much as I trained her, which is really fantastic. So, but when you said that, I was like, when you said branding, marketing, sales, and operations, and you said that it goes in order. I never thought of it that way before, but it really does. It's like without branding, you can't have proper marketing. Without marketing, you won't close the sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have anybody to sell to because nobody knows you exist, right? Marketing creates awareness for one reason or another. And so you bring up some really interesting points. And I found that they do go symbiotically in that direction. So branding, marketing, sales, operations, back to branding, marketing, sales, operations. Like you basically create somehow you create four pillars, but also a circle, because it has to be an ever revolving symbiosis that, oddly enough, your operations has to be really in touch with your branding. And those two departments and whoever is making that decision on messaging and the identity piece of your company has to really be in touch with your operations management, because, and most of the time for solopreneurs, you're all for it, right? But you have to understand that they all hand off for a very specific purpose. And so they're not necessarily exclusive. They all overlap. You know, and I was having a pretty awesome conversation with Stephen about this. Because he was like, yeah, you know, he's like, your marketing sets the stage for your sales to be able to close, because otherwise you don't have anything for your salespeople to work on if marketing isn't firing correctly. And if they are getting tons of leads and they're not closing deals, or they're really bad at sales, or, you know, you've got a lot of issues, or if your revenues are in the toilet, even though your sales numbers are way up, you've got a whole different set of issues. So it's not that they're mutually exclusive. It's that they have to work symbiotically with the department before them and after them. And sometimes you have to reach across to an area that isn't directly related to make sure that you're all aligned, because everybody has to be on the same page. It's an overarching company umbrella. Right. And so it's not, we've got four different things and they run as four different companies. Like, no. We have four different strengths that run under inside one ecosystem under one umbrella. That is the company, right? And so everybody has to be really clear on what the company is, what the mission is, what we're trying to accomplish, who we're trying to accomplish it for. Every single one of those departments, so to speak, because you're right. When you're a small company or a solopreneur, you don't have actual departments. You don't have actual department heads. You are the department head. But you have to understand that all of those initiatives are 4 different initiatives that have to coincide, work symbiotically, and run under the company umbrella that is whatever you're trying to do. So that brings me back to mission statements. It's not a set of brass letters hung on a wall that's supposed to be a really cool statement that looks neat. It's like, yeah, this is our lobby and that's our mission statement. It has to be a living, breathing thing that really embodies the direction that your company is trying to go and why. And making sure that everybody is on board and can adopt that. And so you're talking about strategic hires. They have to be able to carry that mission forward. Yeah, you're gonna have times of growth. You're gonna have times where you need to bring people in, right? The reason why I told my guy throwing another body is not at this situation is not going to help you. It's because that wasn't what was broken. He had scheduling problems, like straight out of the gate. It's like, are you adhering to a schedule? No, not at all. I just have a lot of work and I'm working hard to get it done. Great. But you're putting the not so urgent tasks in front of the really urgent tasks. You're not taking into account the big picture projects. You've got a 15-hour project that you haven't started yet because you have spent, 9 hours doing 15-minute to half-hour projects. It's like, stop doing that. Those will wait because they're not big projects. Sprinkle those around the scheduling gaps. We had a whole bunch of things that we had to tear apart on his strategy and execution just because it wasn't, I need another set of hands. Eventually he will. But it was actually getting that smoothed out. He realized, I'm not at capacity yet. And if I hire somebody, and we were working on the budget too, the revenue side of things. Because sometimes I'm not a CRO, I'm not a CFO, but sometimes it overlaps into what the initiative is. And revenues are a byproduct of what we're trying to do. And so if your sales are breaking down, that's going to affect your revenues. If your marketing is not producing leads for your sales, then that's going to affect your revenue. If you don't even know who you are and how you're trying to convey your mission to the world, that's going to affect your revenues. If the first three work perfectly, but you can't deliver on the product and you have dissatisfied customers that are demanding refunds, that's going to affect your revenue. So everybody wants to focus on revenues first and only, and then wonder why everything's breaking down. I had an interesting conversation with a CPA last week, and he was telling me anonymously about one of his clients. He said they have a company that, I'm just going to say, does a widget service in this industry. And I said, okay. And they said they couldn't understand how to manage their clients, they couldn't understand how to manage their personnel. Because of that, their personnel decided, we're done here. They all went and found other jobs. They then couldn't deliver on what they were offering their clients, and their clients were like, well, this is no longer a good fit. This isn't what we need. And so they left. And so revenues disappeared. And so this person went back out, managed to get more clients, and then was absolutely in a panic because they had 0 operators to actually implement what they promised their clients they could do. And this person could not handle the workload all on their own. And so they pulled it off at the last second. But I said, that cycle is going to repeat over and over and over. And he said, well, why? It's like, she's really good at what she does. And I said, no, she has a really good understanding of what she does and the value she's offering, right? Her unique value proposition. She's good at that. She's not good at running a business. And he kind of looked at me sideways because what I've learned is that CPAs, just to call them out, there are those that understand the holistic business system and those that say, yeah, there's all of the admin work that really just gets in the way and really slows everything down. And I said, everything you're describing as admin work is the company. What she's offering as a service is not the company, it's just the craft. It's what you do, it's your UVP, and that's great and all, but you can't have one without the other, or you'll always have in this revolving door of clients leaving, staff leaving, everything breaking down because it's just in this constant state of turmoil, tension, and chaos, which we all work in chaos. You can't completely avoid that. You never can. But if you're always having a revolving door of these things, then you have a bigger picture issue. You don't have a company. You have a concept that you're selling over and over and over again, and you're just trying to grind harder to execute on it. It doesn't work. It's never going to work.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I've said this a lot before as well, which I mean, I'm obviously still fairly young in the business as well. So I don't know what proof I really have, but just based off of like my own experience, I've always said that people think that getting clients is hard, but it's really not. It's the execution. Like it's the execution that your team. So basically a lot of, and I'm talking to basically like small founders like me. Like I'm not talking to like people who had VC capital backed, like or
that's a totally different animal. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Or bought a company. But it's just like someone who started off like me, where it's like, okay, I started freelancing. And then basically the promise that I give to the clients was me, right? Like everything that I stood for, everything that I did, everything that I have. And I'm super detail oriented. So I'm so crazy that I missed giving you that link. It's the holidays. Anyways, but it was essentially like when we started hiring, I didn't know it at the time, but I eventually realized that the people we were hiring, I had to basically train them to operate, not to be like me, but to operate like me, like to operate in a way that like these are the promises that we give to clients, and these are the promises that we're going to keep. But the problem is for a long time, everything lived in my head. Everything was not said in expectation. Everything was just, oh, like I do it, so they should just do it. And yeah. And I was just like, oh, like I actually have to be like a mom, and I actually have to tell you, okay, like do this exact thing in this exact way. And I will say like this was a struggle that I had very early on, because my team actually needs and wants the structure. And obviously the business needs a structure as well. But I actually hate structure, but I'm very structured. So I hate having like a written down, like you have to do this. This is the structure. Like with our clients, it's like I tell them what we're going to do for them. They don't tell us a strategy. We tell them how many posts, depending on their budget, but we tell them like, okay, this many. We tell them this is the content calendar. Like we're the experts and they trust us. And I just execute from that. And I always just thought anybody that would ever come on to your business would just be like that. It's like, okay, like let me just do it the expert way. Let me just give the promise that we're going to give to our clients. And then everything is just gonna be like a happy, like for one big happy family, one big happy team. And that was something that I realized with my team was like, we need structure. And they told me that. They said we would like more structure. And so I've had to like really work hard at implementing those structures. But I think what people don't realize is you can't keep throwing, oh, we'll add more clients to the problem. Actually, I would say I've had the opposite problem, which is probably one of the things that I know I haven't fully solved for, is it's like I'm so scared to get clients because I know I can get clients. That's the thing. It's like that's not the problem. Like a lot of people think that's the problem. That's not the problem. To us, client retention is a much more important metric. Client acquisition is just as important, but I think client retention is just a little bit more important. And and if you can retain all your clients, it's like you always have a base. And if you have the same team that's trained really, really well, you have that same base. You'll never lose kind of like that foundation that you've built. And so I would say like for the last 3 years, I think I've built the foundation. But I think the one thing that I haven't like fully figured out is, I always say like clients won't fix everything, because if you can't execute or you can't operate, you can't do the operations at like an excellent level, they will leave. And then you're stuck in this cycle. But I think the biggest thing that I've ran into is like I'm just so scared to actually go out and get clients because I want my team to almost show me that they can execute at the level that I'm asking them to. And I just haven't 100,000,000% seen it. And that's the thing, they'll never be like me. So it's like, where is that line? Like where is the line where you're just like, when do I throw them into chaos again? And when do I like keep protecting them? So anyway, just my thoughts.
I feel like you basically just hit on one of the biggest questions in management and operations, but not limited to operations, because this could go for any department, any of the 4 that we've covered. In fact, it does. It's what I call the 3 E's: expectations, communicating exactly what you expect, where the goalposts are, what the boundaries are, what the expectation is for that person or department or initiative, whatever you're trying to communicate, you need to clearly set the expectations so that there's no question of what the goal is we're trying to hit, right? And then it's empowerment. The next E is empowerment. So they have to be able to they have to be empowered to take ownership of their role, of their position, of their place in the initiative, whatever their tasks are, anything that they touch. They have to have complete empowerment and ownership over it. In order to do that, they have to have the resources and everything and their needs met, right? Everything that they would need to accomplish the expectations that were previously communicated, they have to have the resources to do that. So that's leadership's job, to make sure that they're unblocked and that they have all of the tools necessary, right? And that they understand that they have complete agency and ownership over what they are supposed to do. Because so many times and for so many decades, we have built these organizations under a hierarchy. And so it's like, well, I'm just waiting for orders to come from the top down. It's like, no. And that's why certain people will excel, because they don't wait for orders. They just go take the initiative and get it done. Those people are always the exception, never the rule. Because start in school, they're not the rule. You're taught to conform, wait for the instructions. There's not a test that you're ever given that they don't already have the answers to, right? So you're not actually taught to free think anything. You're just taught to recite information. I'm not even trying to rant on the school system. So empowerment is the opposite of that. It's making sure that you have the resources you need, making sure that you have all the information you need and whatever you might, and then the autonomy and ownership to take your own initiative, right? So you've got expectations and empowerment, and that leads to the third E, which is execution. That's when you see everything come together and go, okay, because you can have the first two and you can do the first two flawlessly, like here's the expectations, here's everything you need to do it. But then if we don't execute on it, then it's pointless. Right? It sits there and you feel great about yourself and you feel great about your SOPs and you feel great about everything. If you never use them, if you never execute on it, then it doesn't really do anything. So the third one is kind of a result of the first two and getting them set up. So it's expectations, empowerment, and execution. It goes in that order. And that's usually when you see a team excelling in what they do. You see people, if they're able to take ownership and go, okay, we need structure. Great, I've given you structure. Now what do you need? Nothing. I'm ready to go. Okay, now I fully expect you to execute. I want to see execution. I want to see results. I want to see you doing what we said that we're going to do. That was the expectation phase. You have all the tools you need. Now we're in the execution phase. And if we're still breaking down and not executing, then it usually becomes pretty obvious as to why. That problem will root itself out real quickly, because like, have I given you the first one? Yes. Have I given you the second one? Yes. Why am I not seeing the third one? And it's crickets in the room, right? Because if they don't have a good reason, they just didn't execute on it.
Yeah.
If they do have a good reason, okay, we have something to work on in the first two. We need to go back to the SOPs and figure out what's not working in the structure, what's not working in the processes. But when you get that to that stage and that close, then it's a good opportunity to start piling things on, turn up the volume a little bit and see what happens, right? On client acquisition and things. It's like, okay, we're going to push, because otherwise you will get into a comfortable zone. Even though it's uncomfortable, it's familiar, and the familiar becomes comfortable, even if it's painful. And then we stay in that cycle of just getting by, just doing what we're used to doing, just enough. And so you're like, I don't know if they're ready because I don't want to see them fail. You almost do want to push them to fail, because in failing, they'll find some solutions. You'll be able to figure out what's not working with the first two E's when it comes to the third E. Does that make sense?
No, this is so good. And honestly, I know exactly what's wrong. It's the expectations, because I never really set them. Actually, like this year, so I did a welcome to 2026. And even my right hand told me, like, we just don't have proper orientation. Like whenever we onboard people, we just kind of expect them to just know what to do. We kind of just give them like random trainings. We don't have like a specific, okay, like this is what we expect. And she does, because we have that kind of training for our clients specifically. So let's say with our specific client, it's like, this is what they need. This is how many posts. This is the structure. This is this, this is that, this is that. So when it comes to that, it's fine. Like they understand what the client needs. But the problem that I'm seeing is, and I stole this from Steven. I haven't told him I stole it from him. Yeah, it's so good. It's culture of excellence.
Mm-hmm.
So love love that phrase. I've got to tell him. I haven't talked to him since last year. I mean, like last month. But no, I stole that from him, and I love it so much. And I said, no, like we have a culture of excellence, and I've been repeating that since I did Steven's banner. Really, I've just been like saying that over and over and over again because I like, did the interview with him to understand what he does more. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like we really need to get him on this talk for sure because he'll have a lot of good things to say.
Okay.
But yeah, but you know, I know like as you even before you talked, because I was like working on fix, like that's basically what I worked on throughout the holidays, is basically like saying, okay, like welcome to 2026. Here are the expectations. What this is about, it's ownership. I need you guys to own it. And we actually created a tab. It was called needs updates tab because I was just like so frustrated one day. And I basically renamed it to culture of excellence. So I really like stole this from Steven. Our name is a culture of excellence. And basically said, I don't want your name on here. And a lot of it is just like make sense mistakes. And I think what I was doing before was I was just trying to talk to them. And you know, like I said, a lot of this is built through trial and error. So I don't really have any like anyone telling me how to like, you know, run my business or anything like that. So a lot of it is just like, okay, like what can I do to fix it? And so before I would just talk to them, I would just say, okay, like why did this happen? How can I make sure it doesn't happen again? But then it happens again. And I also told my team, I don't really have any negative consequences either. Like there's no negative consequence in our business. And so I said, no, like we're gonna start doing that because this is ridiculous. Because I actually showed it to my parents and actually Heather as well. Because I said like I hired her for the processes and systems. So I mean I didn't show it to her, but she knows what some of it are. But it's just like a lot of it are like duplication mistakes. A lot of it are like make sense mistakes to where it's like, how did we miss that? Like that is so unacceptable. And the thing is, it comes down to the very minute details that they're not paying attention to. Like the strategy is great, the design looks great, the video editing looks great, but then there's a double caption in the design, a double caption in the video editing, and I'm just like, okay, like the editing might look good, the design might look good, but our clients care more about that. Could be a shitty design for all they care. But it can't be wrong. Like the caption cannot be wrong. The grammar can't be wrong.
Right.
The open quotation ended mark can't be wrong. And so I finally like put together a system where we had a company policies and handbook, and I never had anybody like read it. And so I really worked on it over the holidays. I like strengthened it, and then like even my dad, because I showed it to him, he said, "Where do you sign?" And I actually had a thing at the bottom to sign, but it wasn't like very cleared out. So I like made like a big bold statement, like if you sign this, you're basically contractually bound by like what this says. And it has like in our company policies and handbook, it has like here's like one section, and then there's like a little like initial, and then another section initial, another section initial, and at the end there's a signature. And that's the first time I've ever done it. Like I hate structure so much that it's just like I've never had them do it because it's just like, why do I have to tell you to perform your job at an excellent level? Like our clients don't have to tell me that. But I realized I do have to tell them that, and they did say that they want more structure. So I said, okay, like let's do that. And I don't know, I just implemented it, so let's see, but I think it will work.
Oh, I think it'll have a huge effect. That's one of my favorite phrases when working with like new management trainees. I shouldn't have to. It's like, you're going to find out whether you should or shouldn't have to. You do have to. I agree. You should not have to, but you're going to find out quick. You will have to.
Yeah.
Oh man, you just reminded me of a story. I was working with one of the developers. He was in the IT department in the company I was working for at the time. This was when I was in more of a corporate setting. And they decided to put him in management, not over the IT department, over a totally different department in production. They thought it was a good idea. The higher ups did. And I was scratching, and I liked the guy, but I was like, he does not have the personality fit like he is. I'm like, okay. And so they put him in, and sure enough, the wheels started coming off. People are like, I don't understand what he wants. We're getting reprimanded all the time. Production was down, like all these kind of things. And I said, you do programming, right? And he's like, yeah. And I said, yeah. So input equals output, right? In a programming world, you write the code. Unless the code's broken, you get the result that you wrote. He said, exactly. And he said, these are people. All bets are off. All bets are off across the board. They are not going to behave that way one single bit. And the more you expect that, the less results you're going to get from it. And so I love it. I love that you created that and you were like initials each step of the way, because people are going to go like every service user agreement update that your iPhone or whatever has these. We all just look for the checkbox and then hit I agree, because we're not reading a dang thing about it. And so the fact that you're like, I put initials on every single section. And I said, you will be liable for upholding this. I think that's brilliant, because you can't force them to, what is it? You can't force them to care, but you can encourage them to.
Mm.
You can create an environment that they want to care.
Yeah.
You can't force them to care.
Absolutely.
So by doing that, it's like, hey, so this is what we need for our clients. And it goes back to creating the expectations. This is the expectation of what we need for our clients. I know you want to do a good job. Like everybody wants to do a good job for the most part. I don't think anybody shows up to work and it's like, I'm just really going to give it an absolute shit effort. And if you're bitter in your job and you're completely burnt out, you probably do. But for the most part, those people that want to be at their jobs are trying to do it right. So why are they doing it wrong? I think is the best question you can ask. And that's basically the question you did ask. These are unacceptable mistakes. And I know that I have a team that's way higher caliber than this to be making these kind of mistakes. Why are we doing it wrong? I think that's great. That's brilliant, because I adopted a phrase years ago that people don't fail, processes fail. So we have to stay ahead of our processes. Now, there's a caveat to that. People absolutely fail. They always fail. But if you adopt the mindset that they don't want to fail, that they'll do the best they can in the best environment you give them, then you have to lean heavier on processes. And if you lean heavier on processes, you give them less opportunities to fail.
Absolutely.
So I think it's absolutely the right way to go. And then, communicating the expectations. And what was interesting to me is that you communicate the expectations with your clients during onboarding. This is what you expect from us. This is what we expect from you. This is the world in which you operate in regards to our interaction and transaction. And this is what you can expect us to operate within in regards to what you're paying for, right? There's clear expectations right out of the gate. Nobody's got any questions as to what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So why do we, as companies, everybody does this. Everybody does this. We fail to do that internally. We're just like, well, we're going to deliver the thing. And the thing is going to show up and people are going to love the thing and they're going to pay us more money for more of the thing. And then we're like, why isn't this working? Like, I see it over and over and over. And the irony is, even though I help everybody do this, I do this. Like when it's your company and it's internal, it breaks down every time. Even literally in the position of helping people fix the very thing that is breaking down. It's the roofer's roof that leaks. The cobbler's kids have no shoes. I don't know why it's human nature, but that is absolutely a law in business. Like you're saying it over and over. I'm so detail oriented, but I hate these structures and details. And my people are missing these structures and details. Why? I trained them. How can they be missing these details? It's so ironic because if you miss it once, you'll miss it twice, right? We had a rule early on in the company that I worked for in a production environment that somebody else had to run proofs, not the operator, because the operator, if they missed it once on the order, they were going to miss it twice when they proofed it. Because we had stuff go out the door and it's like, how did we miss that? That wasn't spelled right. It wasn't done right.
Yeah.
That wasn't put together right. That wasn't the right color. How did the person miss that on the order? It's right here on the order.
Oh gosh, yes.
And so we had to set up processes like you cannot have the same set of eyes on the order twice when proofing it. Somebody else has to be proofing it before it goes to final and then gets sent out the door, because final was going, well, the operator knows what they're doing, they got it. And the operator was going, I double checked it, I don't know how I missed it. So we had to throw an extra layer in there and go, okay, objective set of eyes, what is this? Pretend like everybody's stupid and fill the order from scratch.
Yeah. I think that's the key, even though this is the candid conversation, right? Like, I think that's the key, is pretend like everybody's a child. Like, literally, I'm just like, I feel like I'm babysitting. And I told them I'm done babysitting. And so that's why we put together the processes and systems. And thank you for saying that, because like I said, everything that I've done so far is just like really trial and error. It's like, I spent the last 4 months just like talking to them. We were having so many meetings about just like, why are we making the same mistakes? Why is this the mistake? Like, I don't understand. What's the process we can change? Nothing was changing. And I said, you know what? let's track this because I'm tired. Like I just want this from a data standpoint. And
Mhm.
I think that's the one thing I'm changing this year. And I don't really believe in like, okay, it's 2026, so we changed something in 2026. It just so happened that like it landed in 2026. I think you can change your processes at any time of
Oh,
any
yeah.
year. But it just happened to land for us this month because I was just like really tired and everybody was going on a break soon. So this happened in December. And so many of my team like wanted off. I'm just like, my gosh, there's like so many mistakes. Like, how can you be taking off? But I approve all offs. And I put that in because I was just like, okay, like we're gonna track it for December. I'm gonna show you what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing, and then in 2026 we're gonna fix it, and we're gonna come from a data standpoint, and we're actually gonna have, so as you said before, OKRs, KPIs, which I've never ever tracked before, which we're tracking now.
Nice.
So we started tracking like we're gonna start tracking everything. We did start in December, but a lot of that is just rudimentary numbers to like be able to put together the things. And then like January is when we are actually gonna have, okay, like if this percentage doesn't go by XYZ, then this consequence will happen, whether it's a negative or positive consequence. Because I've just never, like I said, ever like you could do shitty work and we would just normally like let people go. But I think at this point, you're right. Like I do have a team that I know is really, really good. Because
Mhm.
even my parents are like, "Why you just fire them?" I'm just like, no, like they're really good at what they do. They're a good designer. They're a really good designer. But there's a double arrow on the title page. I'm like, why is there a double arrow on the title page? You can only swipe one way. No, yes, no. And so,
Where are we going here?
right? And so I do think it will work. I do think like as you were talking, I was just like, yeah, I knew for sure what was missing. It was definitely the expectations that I never set forth for my team because I never had to have the client set that for me. And I
Mhm.
think you're right. It's like it is probably the exception because I never wanted to be an employee either. Like I wanted to be an entrepreneur even when I was working for somebody else. And
Mhm.
honestly, when I was working for somebody else, I wasn't the greatest employee either. Like I sucked at it because I didn't want to take orders from somebody. I hate it when someone tells me what to do. Whereas my team was like, tell us what to do. And I'm just like, okay, like we're gonna have processes and systems that will tell you what to do, what the expectations are, but you are still deciding what that should be. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. I just don't believe in it. So
No, I agree. Creative freedom is huge because you get such a better output from empowering people to take initiative and creative freedom in what they're doing. Ironically, the only way to do that is by creating some sort of structure. But you don't ever want to micromanage
yeah.
because micromanagers think they're getting a lot more done. I'm not saying you are, but I've seen it over and over. Micromanagers think they're getting a lot done because they feel really accomplished because they stood over everybody's shoulder all day long and just policed everything that was going on in the company or in the project or whatever. Like it could be a team of 3 and there's a micromanager in there, right? Um, it's never going to be productive. Always let people have creative freedom within the boundaries that they are going to excel in. That's the second E. That's empowering them to do what they need to do. If you've clearly communicated in the first E, then empowering them to do what they need to do in the second E is going to equal the execution that you need on the third E. It's and like I've seen this, and we see it a lot in the standard corporate story. You've got the standout employee that gets all the praise and all the accolades because they excel and oh my gosh, they're self-starting, self-motivated. They do this and do that, and they take their own initiative and blah, 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 right? There's a good chance that employee A that's getting all this praise is the same as employee B, except employee B didn't have the wherewithal or the aptitude or the understanding to interpret the vague set of instructions that they were given. Or they literally both executed with the same amount of effort, the same amount of deductive reasoning, and the same, let's just say it was the same across the board. But employee A came to one conclusion and employee B came to the other. Employee A guessed right and employee B guessed wrong, but they were both guessing.
Yeah.
Then we praise employee A. They now have a thread to pull and they go, oh, I got this. I know what I'm doing now. And they figure it out basically through like trial and error, whereas employee B, we're like, this person's just never going to get it. They're just not really a team player. They don't understand the company. And it's like, well, did you ever tell them what the initiative was within the company that you're wanting them to understand? Well, we shouldn't have to. Employee A gets it. So that just proves that employee B is a bad employee. It's like, no, talent is talent. If you're not communicating and setting clear expectations and guidelines for them to operate within, everybody excels in different strengths and different levels, but we can't, it's going all the way, tying it back in, you can't have one person using the same fractional, or 20 people using the same fractional title across the board and expecting the same results. We need to be setting some guidelines as to what that means and what you can expect from it. Otherwise, you've got, people saying, "Oh, I hired a CMO and they sucked, so I don't want to hire another one." That's not even fair to say, because do we even know what that meant? And like you were saying, some execute, some don't. Some work with entire teams, some are single operators. There's so many different variables that we have to take into account that we're just not.
Yeah. And I think as business owners, we already have so many variables, because I think for me, I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So I think that's the other piece that I would love to talk to you about, maybe in a different conversation, is that I think like some business owners, they just really don't know where to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are so many variables. It's like, even for me, it's like when I was in the thick of it, I think this is the one thing that I don't know if I'm right or wrong about, but I think I've always been proud of in some way, is that I don't automatically go to what's wrong with them. Because a lot of business owners will be like, I hired somebody, they're not doing their job, and they're like, what's wrong with them? Why aren't they doing it? Why? But it's like, I think the first thing I always ask, and the thing that I teach what would eventually be my leadership team as well, I mean, they already lead some of the team members as well, but we're very small, is that, because sometimes they'll come to me and they'll say, okay, like this person didn't do that right. But it's like, but did you give the right directions? Like, did you communicate correctly? And this is something I tell them, I'm still learning this as well. So I'm teaching you what I'm currently learning. But that's the one thing that I've always asked myself first, is like, could I have communicated better? Could I have said it differently? Is there another way? Where is the process broken? Is the system like not in place? Rather than just saying, oh my gosh, like, why are they? Sometimes I do wonder, but I don't just go there. I don't just automatically go there. And it's like, how can we fix it as a system, as a process, as a team? Because I ask them as well. It's like, how can we fix it? Do you have ideas? Because you're the one that's having these problems. So you tell me. Right. And then I do give them the ownership. And I think that's the one place where it's like, I never had the first E, but I had the second E. I had the empowerment. I always empower them. It's like, if you think it's a good idea, it doesn't always have to be my idea, implement it and then tell me afterwards. If it works, great. If it doesn't, let's do it again. Because everything that I'm doing is trial and error. The best that you can do with me is to trial and error with me. And your ideas are probably just as good as mine, if not even better. And so I do have the empowerment, but without the expectations, there's no execution, because those two E's, for the expectation to happen, the first E really does need to be. And I think I love what you said, which is creative freedom with boundaries, which I've always just given them creative freedom.
Yeah, creative freedom with boundaries, because if they don't know, it goes back to OKRs. If we don't know what the objectives are, and we don't know what the key results we're looking for are, then we don't know when we've hit it. You can have objectives, but you have to have key results to be able to measure your objectives. And so, it's like when somebody says, I just need to increase revenues. Like, so we're starting from scratch. Okay, let's do this. Because it's not about increasing revenues. It's about what's inhibiting your revenues. Revenues are a byproduct. What's inhibiting that, right? So objectives and key results, creative freedom. Absolutely. But creative freedom for what purpose? Like, I thought it would be really fun to put, a picture of sandcastle art on this person's social media post. That's definitely creative freedom.
Yeah.
But if it has nothing to do with the objective, then we've just squirreled sideways, right? Who did this? I did it. I thought it was a great idea. Like, they may even own it. And here's why. It's like, that wasn't the objective for this campaign. That's not what we're even trying to create. Here are the outlines. Here are the objective. This is what the client's going for. This is what they're trying to convey. And this aeronautics, like, I'm just making stuff up. This aeronautics company doesn't communicate their message through a picture of sandcastle art in the Fort Lauderdale spring break, whatever contest. Like, that's not gonna, like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it was creative. It's like, arguably you could argue that point all the way around, right? But it's the most abstract thing in the world. It's like, oh, we're coloring so far outside the lines, we're not even in the coloring book anymore. We're just scribbling on the table and calling it artistic. It's so true. It's so true with what you're saying. I love it. And I love the fact that you do give them empowerment and ownership. But
Yeah.
Right. And humanity, I was actually just having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they were talking from a psychology standpoint, how we develop these things at a very, very young age. Like around age 3 is actually when we start developing these decisive, and a lot of us get stuck and apparently don't develop them.
Mhm.
I don't know why that is. We didn't get into that. But he's saying, you talk to a 3-year-old. I apparently have a lot of toddler and juice analogies today, but he's like, you talk to a 3-year-old and you're like, do you want grape juice or do you want orange juice? He's like, they're probably going to melt down and freak out.
Mm.
You're like, why? I just asked them which juice they wanted, this juice or that juice. Because we haven't developed that discerning ability to be decisive and understand the context that we want to operate in yet, right? And so they were saying that they'll typically melt down in that stage. And I was like, why? I didn't even know why. I was like, why? They're like, because they have to process one at a time. Do you want orange juice? No, I do not want. No, I do not orange juice. Do you want grape juice? Yes, I do want grape juice, right? They had to break it apart into 2 separate topics, tackle one, then tackle the other in that succession. And then it's like, yes, I do have a reasonable understanding and I do want this. And then they're able to move forward. Great, let's get the grape juice going. Let's pour the glass of grape juice or whatever they decide. But if you say orange juice or grape juice, which do you want? It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I have 2 different routes of execution and I have no idea if it's a right or left, because it doesn't create an if this then that scenario in our minds. And so when it comes to teams and operations, we have to set up ITTT, if this then that.
Mm.
Or INTTT, if not then this then that, if not this then that. Because it's basically we're creating a series of yes or no questions for people to navigate with our processes. But I didn't even realize we were doing that until he broke that down on a psychological level. And that really fascinated me, because now I have a little bit more reason why these things work, why structure is important, why people want creative freedom and autonomy. Because the kid wants juice and the kid wants to be able to pick the juice they want.
Mm.
But if we don't set up a structure for us to be able to develop these reasoning skills and execution skills, and it turns out we don't evolve as far as we think we do, right? We're not 3 anymore trying to pick which juice we want.
Right.
But the principle is exactly the same when faced with a dichotomy. We'll melt down and screw up really simple stuff because our brains didn't process it in a yes or no. And what's the path forward? If it's this, then it's that. If it's not this, then it's not that.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good. So when I first wanted to start my podcast, the business one, because I wanted to start like a travel one too, and I wanted to start a lot. The marketing one, not the business one. I wanted to start like 3 different podcasts. None of them worked. I think this works better for me, but I would love to get like someone who is in like that psychology realm, like just talking to them, because I think it benefits you and it benefits me too. Like as far as like just a topic structure, because a lot of like everything that we do, like just marketing in general, is all psychology.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like literally, but
Mhm.
also people is psychology. Like literally everything that I do with my team. And actually I tell them that because I have my assistant. She doesn't do everything perfectly, but I let her do it because I was just like, I don't want to deal with it. So I usually just talk to her afterwards. So like, she'll tell me like, because I have her like checking everything and I have her being the person that like checks on all of the team to make sure that they're doing their jobs correctly. Because I don't want that job. I think that's the first thing that you should ever delegate to people. Like it just gives you so much peace of mind. Even if they don't do it perfectly, it just allows you to not have to think that they do it right, they did not do it right. And only one person is reporting to you, not everybody. You're thinking, okay, we know who did their job, who didn't. Right? And you can fix it systemically. Side note. But anyways, I have her doing that. And I think for me, it's like the biggest thing with that is even though she doesn't do it the way I would do it, I would always just tell her like after the fact, like, hey, like, I would tell her like, use psychology, because it's like, what questions are you asking? Because all that she does is she just repeats the same thing over and over again. She'll say, is this done? Is this done? It basically, is this done? Like, like, can you do it? Is this done? Can you do it? But I said, ask a different question that they would have to answer, right?
Mhm.
It's not just is this done? Yes or no? And they're just ignoring you anyway, which I tell my team, you cannot ignore anyone on this team. Communication is super important. But I also tell her, it's like, it's the way that you phrase the question that will get you an answer. And it's the way that you phrase whatever it is that you're saying that will get them to respect you even more. Like, it's not just, is it done? It's ask them a question that would make them self-reflect. Why didn't you do it? Right? Like, why hasn't it been done yet? Rather than, is this done? And the thing is, whenever I actually message my team, I always tell them, it's like, I don't even care that it didn't get done. I just want you to answer why you didn't do it.
No,
Because I don't care. I want to get to the root.
I think that's smart. Yeah, it's when people ask the question, what's more important, qualitative or quantitative? My answer is always yes. It's like, you have to have both. Well, this is more important than that one. No, depends on the question, but not when it comes to people. Especially project management, because what you're describing is project management.
Yeah.
And people don't want to be micromanaged. They want to be given freedom and autonomy to do what they need to do, as we've discussed. But that's a project management issue. Okay, so how do I motivate somebody without having authority over this person? Because it's not an authority issue. We don't rule by fear, because fear will inhibit. So how do I motivate you to achieve the goals that you've agreed to achieve, right? And it comes back to the ownership, inspiration, autonomy, all of those things. But yeah, quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative, is it done? Yes or no? No, it's not done. But qualitative is, why isn't it done? What issues did you face that inhibited you from achieving the deadline or whatever the end result is? That's a different question. Is it done? Yeah, it's done. But these results don't say that it's done. Okay, it's not done. Why'd you lie and say it was done? There's so many different things that go into this. Is it done? Why isn't it posted? Oh, because I need to tweak this, this, and this. So it's not done. Well, technically not. It's like, oh my, like we just went around in a big old circle.
Yeah. And actually hearing you talk right now, I'm just like, and Heather as well. It's like, I do understand that this is actually like, not just, sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, I think that's also why we started this thing. You think it's just you. You think, I'm like, why am I having these problems? And no one else seems to be having these problems. Why is it that I'm the only one that can't get my team to do this thing and do that thing and do that thing? But, the more you listen to other people, and I think the more people are open with what it is that they're going through, that you really get to see, okay, like, it's not just you. Like, this is like a process problem, like probably in every single company that's ever been created, especially as you start building out your team. So it always just makes me feel better when people tell me, like, yes, I do have that, then come for me.
I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. I think we're all a little bit crazier. We wouldn't start doing what we're doing, but it's definitely not isolated just to us by any means. But we don't talk about that. Nobody talks about that. That's one of my biggest rants in business landscape. That's why I've created the collab space, because nobody wants to talk about it. Because if you admit it, then you failed. It's like,
Right.
oh my gosh, no, if you admit it, then you can fix it. If you admit it, then you can come up with a solution. Otherwise, you just are in this vacuum trying to do business and losing your mind in the process, wondering why you ever started trying to do a business.
Yeah, no, it's true. And actually, I had a question for you, not related to this. Are you open? Because I mean, we are doing a lot more. So here's what I'm finding when I downloaded all of the Opus things. There's actually a lot of footage. We're doing an hour and a half of conversations, which is really, really fun. And I would love to keep it going. But I don't want to have so much footage and we're not using it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, kind of a waste.
Exactly. Would you be open to having a combined Candid Conversations page?
Probably. Let's talk more about what that looks like. So
Okay.
like a totally separate entity that is just you and me, and it exists standalone as is.
Yeah. So basically, like I was talking about, we should get Steven on. It's not a podcast, but it would look like a podcast.
It's not a podcast.
It's not a
basically
podcast. But it would look like a podcast. But it would just be real. So we wouldn't post like the full thing because we talk about a bunch of nonsense all the time. And we talk about some things that we probably shouldn't release out there.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, we should do a Patreon where it's like #2CandidConversations. No, I'm just kidding. That could be an idea. But the things we never released because it was too candid. We could, that could still be an idea,
unfiltered.
right? But the reason that I think that is because we have so many. And the thing is, the way that we run our thing is it's a process, right? It's like, it's easier for us to do it in bulk rather than we pick out here, we pick out here, we pick out here, it expires. And then I would rather just want to download everything that's good in that one conversation, put it in a drive, be able to kind of, but the thing is, if I download a lot, it's like, I know I'm not going to post it too much on mine because not everything relates to what I do. Like sometimes we just talk about, you talk about social, which I mean, you could use probably for yourself as well, but it's just like, not everything that we talk about will really relate to what we do. I still want to have like a LinkedIn branding that I want to kind of separate. Sticky Post is separate. So I don't always just post. I don't actually post what's on Sticky Post on my LinkedIn. And then I kind of want to have like a separate one where we can just use almost everything that we're doing and actually like have it be like not a podcast, but it would be like a podcast page basically.
Yeah, basically have it be a podcast. That's what we've inadvertently created. And I'm fine with that because it is a podcast. And that the whole point was to be having real conversations about real topics and things. And then for me, one of my personal goals when I pitched the idea is I wanted to create content that I could then post on my LinkedIn or on my social media for the purpose of thought leadership. If we want to create a separate landing page that goes towards that, I think I'm okay with that. I don't see a problem with that. Give me a minute to think about it. Okay. Because then we can use more of the content and it's not just wasted. And I think that's great because, otherwise I'll be clipping this up for a long time and then coming back to it. Like I'll post something else. And I don't need a lot of continuity in what I'm doing and what I'm saying because it all kind of falls under the umbrella of what I do, especially this conversation. I feel like I basically ended up dominating that and giving webinar lectures more than you and I having a conversation. I feel like I just kind of podiumed pretty hard. But yeah, I think that could work. That way we have a place for the content. So if anybody's interested more in, I call it long form visual content, then they could go watch it there or go check it out or deep dive it a little bit. And then we can still clip it up and reference back to our own businesses for
it won't have the long form. It'll all be short form. It'll basically be, sorry, let me clear out what the idea actually was. So the long form is really hard to clip because of why? Because of the way that we're talking. It would really require like a lot of edits. And I don't have a long form video editor. We only do shorts. So basically it would just be clipped. I'm just going to download everything. It's going to come into a system to where like we have everything in the drive already edited. You can pick out what you want for your own stuff, right? And then I'm going to pick out what I want for my own stuff. But then we have like that database, which I will do all the work. Like I just want like a space where we're not wasting content. So basically it's just like, because the thing is like, okay, we can download and cherry pick what we want, but there's a lot of content that's really good that I think like other people would love to hear about, that I think like we can start a TikTok. It won't just be LinkedIn. It would be TikTok, Instagram. It would actually be like what I do for our clients. Like I said, like I'm just asking for your permission, basically. You don't have to do anything at all. And it would still be shared. Like you would be on there, you'd be an admin. You can do what you want. If you want to add to it, you can. If you want to post a story, you can. But it's cut off clips that what we have now, but just less cherry picked. Because my brand is my brand and your brand is your brand. The Sticky Post brand is very different. So I can't post everything to what we talk about.
Yeah.
But in that place, we would post, except for the ones that we say is off limits, we would post everything that we talk about that can help other business owners, especially once we have guests. It's like, it's easy for them to repost from there because once we have guests, it's like we actually need a process. That's the thing. There needs a system. Otherwise, it's just like we just invited somebody to like talk with us, which is cool too. Like I love these conversations. I don't mind if we don't do anything with them because I do love it. But it's just more, I really want to establish our brand authority and anyone who comes into here, their brand authority. And they can just kind of pull from that. So it would be like all the pages. And the thing is, I think for me, it's just I'm also in a growth trajectory. So I like want to be able to prove to people that I can create content and have it be what we do for our clients, right? Like establish them as the brand authority for that specific thing. And the thing is, my LinkedIn, I think it's just a little too all over the place right now. And the thing is, that one can have both. It's like it's yours, it's mine, it's the two of us. Rather than like with me, I'm probably cherry picking things that I'm saying,
Mhm.
and you're cherry picking the things you're saying. And then it's like, and then I thought about like, where does like the one where we interact, where does it go?
Yeah.
So that's what I thought about it, because I was just like, I would post it on mine, but probably like one, maybe two, like in a month, because I would want it to be more me. So that's the only reason why I brought it up. But it would only be short form. There's no long form content because it is not a podcast. And I'm not producing a long form podcast.
No, I don't have the energy for that. Yeah, so it's just a neutral space where basically we're both collaborating into the thing being a standalone for what it is. Placeholder name being the Candid Conversations.
Yeah, and we can change that as well if you would like. But yeah, it's basically if you want to do it. It's fine if you don't. It's just an idea. But I just saw all the clips on Opus today, and it has gotten so much better. There were so many clips, and I'm just like, it's a lot of clips that we can easily just like take off. And the thing is, what I'm doing right now is I'm leaning heavily into marketing.
Mhm.
So for me, like spending that time, I don't think it would be a waste of time, because it's something that it's proof of concept, right? It's a company page. It's not on a LinkedIn. It's a bunch of, it's two people talking, but I really want to increase my brand awareness. So that's why I asked that.
Yeah, same. No, that was the whole reason for the thought in the first place. When I started reaching out, doing this, I really enjoyed our conversation. I reached out to a couple other people. They didn't get back to me. I was like, oh, okay. I guess we're not doing that then. Because I was wanting to have more of these conversations with people where I bring people on and talk about their expertise, share my expertise, and create brand awareness for myself and for them, right? It needs to be symbiotic. And so when you're talking about bringing third persons on like Steven or whomever, I think that we need a place to land that. I like it initially. I really do. Let me put a little bit of thought into it, because there's something missing in the structure that I want to add to it.
Okay.
But I don't know what that is yet.
Okay.
And it'll come to me. So give me a little bit of time to marinate on it.
Yeah, I actually wanted to also pitch, because I'm going to be traveling to the Philippines this weekend. That on the 14th, so we would skip a week of doing these, because there really is a lot of videos. So to like kind of put that together first, maybe on the 14th, or let me know if you need more time, but that'd be about a week and a half. I just wanted to kind of meet up for like admin. It's not starting to sound like a podcast, but like admin things. Basically, it's like, well, what it would look like, because I'm going to start posting. I haven't posted any on my end as well. So I'm about to. So it's basically, it's like,
I want to as well. I'm way past due for that.
Okay. So maybe it's just like, that's what I had in mind, is just like an hour after the SEN meeting. So like write it after, if you have a space back to back, of just like talking about like what we would post, or like basically just like a system of like what it's going to look like. It's fine, whatever it looks like, but it's just like the system of what it's going to look like. All of the posts are going to be on Opus by that time. I'm going to do it today. So you're going to get all of that today, what it's going to look like. And then maybe just, if you want to do Candid Conversations, we can talk about it then. And then maybe let's talk about like guests and stuff as well. Like if we do want to do it, if we want to start an initiative. I know it's starting to sound like a podcast, but if we're not going to release it, it doesn't have to be this laid out. But if we are going to release it, I think it's better if we just have an actual system for it, because otherwise it's never going to get done.
No, I agree. Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's schedule some time to talk about it. I think my final housekeeping question, and I asked you about this, do you, as I post videos and create captions for them, on my medias, do you want me to tag you in them or not so much? Because I know that you have a specific brand and awareness you're wanting to go for. So I'm not wanting to cut you out, but I'm not wanting to include you in anything that you're like, I really don't want to be in that. It's obviously all clips from our conversations that I'm referencing. As I go in and I'm like, this is a good one. I'm going to go off on this, and I'm going to write a post about this, and here's the video to back it up. Like that's essentially what I'm planning. Just kind of going off the reservation, so to speak, with that. would you prefer to be tagged or not tagged and things like that? Or I can tag you after the fact. If you're like, I really like that, then I can tag you in it. Like, I don't have a problem tagging you whatsoever. I don't want to take the liberty if you're like, please don't put me.
No, let me put it this way. You're free to tag me on anything, but make sure it makes sense. Like if it makes sense to tag me, then great. If it doesn't make sense to not tag me, don't do it. Like that's where I'm at. But you're free to tag me on anything. And actually,
Sure, cool.
I didn't ask you, but that's what I was gonna do. It was like if it makes sense, like if you're in the picture and I'm referencing you, of course I'm gonna tag you. But if it's just me talking and it makes sense for my own brand and there was no mention of Brady or it doesn't even look like I'm talking to you, then I won't tag you.
Same thing. Yeah, I was gonna do the same thing. Perfect.
Okay. Awesome. And then are you free on the 14th?
I think so.
11 a.m. I have EST. That's like right after the SEN meeting.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Awesome. I will send that and I'll just say housekeeping, but I will see you then. And I'll send you the link to the sheet once I'm done compiling everything.
Perfect. Yeah. And then do I have the link to the drive where all the clips are being stored?
You
Perfect.
do. You do.
That way I'll just get in there and download everything and bombard myself so that I don't let anything lapse and expire ahead of time.
Yeah, you do. You'll have access to everything, but I'll put it all in there. And
Okay. Perfect. Sounds good.
Bye. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.